When 3I/ATLS released rhythmic jets of water vapor near Mars, NASA's instruments flagged something they'd never seen before. Not just a comet from another star system, but one behaving like it had a mind of its own. Instead of a frozen relic drifting silently through space, this object pulses every 27 minutes, leaks gases it shouldn't have, and bends light in ways no natural body does. Its metallic surface, unusual chemical mix, and electromagnetic interference have left scientists scrambling for explanations. Is it a comet? A probe? A messenger? Official statements stay cautious, but behind the scenes the shock is real, because no one can explain it. If you're still watching, subscribe now. You crave more than answers. You seek what lies beyond. Subscribe now, and be part of the few who never stop searching. This is what makes 3I/ATLS different. It isn't just passing through, it's doing things no interstellar object should. As it gets closer to the sun, activity is intensifying. The vapor isn't random, the signals might not be noise. If this is an engineered object, it could be carrying messages, monitoring life, or seeding worlds. Whether it's panspermia, communication, or surveillance, the implications are enormous. We might not be looking at a natural visitor, but at something sent, and if that's true, it means we've just intercepted a piece of a far greater intelligence, one that sees us, even if we're only now learning to see it. It started with a leak. Not a press leak. Not a leak of classified documents, but something far more startling. Water. Leaking. From an interstellar object. 3I/ATLS wasn't supposed to do that. It wasn't supposed to do anything. An object from deep space, beyond our solar system, frozen for billions of years, drifting through the vacuum without purpose, until now. NASA's instruments weren't prepared for what they were seeing. Neither were the European observatories, or the independent telescopes tuned into the trajectory. Everyone expected a simple flyby, a quick study of a rock from another star, then back to regular programming. Instead they got vapor, water vapor, slowly venting from the surface of the object, in controlled bursts, and not randomly. Not chaotically. These pulses happened every 27 minutes, like a metronome, like a clock, like a heartbeat. That's when the alarm bells started to ring, because in the vacuum of interstellar space, water doesn't behave like this, it sublimates. It escapes. It doesn't pulse. It doesn't release itself in precise intervals unless there's a mechanism behind it. Something was controlling the outgassing. And it wasn't just the water. The gas ratios were all wrong. COH levels were abnormally high, off the charts for a body presumed to be ancient and dormant. That much carbon dioxide doesn't just sit inside an object frozen for eons unless there's something keeping it there, or something creating it. Then the data got stranger. The comet's surface was reflecting light in unnatural ways, not just bright polarized. Light twisted as it bounced off the object. Some wavelengths reversed, others shifted into spectrums that didn't match the known signatures of ice, dust, or metal. It behaved like a surface covered in structured material. Something with pattern, something with purpose, and all of it was happening while the object coasted past Mars. That's when the electromagnetic anomalies were detected. Localized disturbances, minor fluxes in the surrounding space, not strong enough to be called emissions, but structured enough to repeat, too rhythmic to be random, and tied to the same 27-minute cycle that matched the water vapor bursts. It was all connected. Every major observatory with access to the comet's path turned its eyes to 3I/ATLS, and what they saw didn't clarify anything. It deepened the mystery, because the object wasn't slowing down like a typical comet under solar heat. It wasn't fragmenting. It wasn't behaving like any frozen body nearing the sun. Instead, it was activating. And that scared people. Because if it was activating, then it had a dormant state. And if it had a dormant state, it had intent. The first interstellar object ever recorded to leak water vapor. The first to show controlled emissions, the first to reflect light like a structured surface, the first to pulse like a signal, and it just happened to pass through our system. You don't have to believe in extraterrestrial life to find that disturbing. You just need to understand how comets work, and how this one doesn't. And it gets worse. Spectral analysis revealed the presence of metallic compounds on the object's surface, not nickel or iron, expected elements in cometary cores, but alloys. Some of them consistent with refined materials, materials that on Earth require high-temperature processes to produce. That doesn't fit with a naturally formed body ejected from some distant star system billions of years ago. It fits with design. Some scientists began speaking off the record, carefully, anonymously, raising possibilities that would have been laughed out of the room a year ago, that 3I/ATLAS might not be a comet at all, that it might be engineered. Not a ship, not a weapon, but a messenger. A probe, built long ago, designed not to land, but to pass through solar systems silently, releasing signals when it encounters specific environmental triggers, or perhaps specific civilizations. The pulsing emissions, the electromagnetic distortion, the high CO Hawass levels, the reflective anomalies. It all pointed in one direction. This object wasn't just behaving strangely, it was following a protocol. And if that's true, then it has a message, and we may be the recipients. Of course, there's no official statement. NASA remains cautious, European agencies, silent. No one wants to be the first to say the word artificial. Not yet. But the data is public. The evidence is mounting, and the silence from officials says more than a press conference ever could. Because here's the hard truth. This may be the first direct evidence of a non-human construct entering our solar system, and it's leaking. Deliberately, accidentally. No one knows, but it's venting more than vapor. It's venting questions. Big ones. What is this object really? What created it? Is it part of a system? Is it one of many? And most important, why now? Theories range from the plausible to the outrageous. Some believe 3I/ATLAS is part of an ancient biological delivery system, panspermia on a galactic scale, seeding planets with microbial life, or maybe just testing conditions. A living time capsule, released eons ago by a species long vanished. Others believe it's a probe, a sensor, designed to detect electromagnetic noise from young civilizations, triggered by our satellites, our radio broadcasts, our nuclear signatures. Then there are the darker theories, that this is no passive visitor, that its pulse isn't just data, it's a beacon. A message sent back to origin, not to greet us but to report us, to alert whoever sent it that another star system has reached awareness, that Earth is no longer blind. We don't know what it's here for, we don't know if it will leave. But what we do know is this: it's not finished. As it draws closer to the sun, activity is expected to spike. If the object's behavior is driven by heat, natural or not, then the solar approach will reveal more. Possibly fragment it, possibly activate it further. Right now, all agencies are watching. James Webb, Hubble, ground-based infrared arrays. Every eye is locked on this thing. And that means we're past speculation. We're in observation mode. What comes next could change everything. Because if this is a probe, if this is engineered, then someone built it, someone deployed it, and someone might be waiting for its signal. And if it's just a natural object, one with behavior so precise it mimics machinery, then we've just encountered something even more terrifying. A natural process we don't understand, that behaves like intelligence. Either way, we're looking at a mirror, reflecting our assumptions, our models, our limits, and forcing us to ask the one question no one's ready to confront. What else is out there? Because now we know the void is not empty. It leaks, it pulses, it watches, and it sends things like 3I/ATLAS our way, not at random, but with rhythm, with a heartbeat. So don't look away. Don't let the silence fool you. It's still out there, still moving, still active, and it hasn't said its last word. If you want the raw truth, the kind buried beneath cautious headlines, subscribe now. We're tracking this in real time. No filters, no denial, just fact, analysis, and clarity. Because 3I/ATLAS is still talking, and someone needs to listen. It hasn't stopped. Every time instruments focus back on 3I/ATLAS, the story deepens. What looked like a one-off anomaly is now a repeatable pattern. What began as vapor venting has become a message in persistence, a strange kind of endurance that refuses to align with what we know about cometary science. The emissions continue, like clockwork, still pulsing, still on that rigid 27-minute cycle, consistent, repeating. Exact, not drifting. Not decaying, like a program running on loop. And that's the problem. Nature doesn't work this way. Celestial bodies don't keep perfect time. They fracture, they shift, they succumb to heat, gravity, instability. Not 3I/ATLS, it keeps pulsing, like a mechanism that's been waiting for activation. Not a signal meant to be heard by human ears, but a procedure, a protocol, a script written before we even had the means to detect it. The chemical signatures are still off. High levels of CO2 that should have burned off long ago. That should have sublimated in deep space. But it didn't. It's active. Now here, when it shouldn't be. And that brings the same question back to the surface every time. What is this object doing? There's no tail, not the way you expect from a typical comet. No chaotic plume stretching behind it, no debris cloud, just tight focused venting. Measured bursts of vapor and gas, like it's pressurized. Like something underneath is maintaining equilibrium, or more disturbingly, managing its release. The phrase thermal regulation has started to circulate, carefully, quietly, among aerospace specialists. Because if this object is releasing heat deliberately, then that means it contains internal mechanisms, and if it's managing heat, it's active. Not geologically, not by accident. Technologically, the metallic reflectivity still doesn't make sense. Comets aren't shiny, not like this, not in polarized light. Yet here it is, twisting photons as they pass. Surfaces aren't just bouncing light, they're redirecting it, inverting it, responding to it. That's not natural. It's engineered. Every new dataset confirms the last. Different sensors, different countries, same result. This thing reflects like structured material. Not smooth. Not uniform. Patterned. Repeating segments that deflect radio waves and scatter visible light in ways consistent with fabrication. But no one will say it out loud. Not officially, because to say that would be to admit the implications, and right now, no one wants to do that. Not without absolute proof. Not until the thing unpacks itself or sends a transmission, or breaks into fragments revealing circuits, and yet it keeps behaving like it's meant to be here. Not as a wanderer. Not as debris, but as something placed, something released with purpose. As 3I/ATLS moves closer to the sun, agencies brace for more. If it follows expected cometary behavior, we'll see increased venting, more activity, possible fragmentation. But that's the problem. Nothing it's done so far has followed the rulebook. So what happens if it doesn't break apart? What happens if it doesn't erupt in gas and flame like every other comet caught in solar radiation? What happens if, instead, it activates further? What happens if the sun is not its end, but its target? Because that's becoming one of the more unsettling theories, that 3I/ATLS isn't here by coincidence. That its course toward the inner system was intentional. That it's drawn toward the sun not by gravity alone, but by design. The sun as a trigger, a catalyst, a source of power, or worse, an instruction. That idea sounds unthinkable, until you look at the data. The timing. The patterns. The orbital precision. This wasn't a random intercept, it was a controlled entry, and it passed every single outer planet without deviation. Just like it knew where it was going. The 27-minute pulses have remained unchanged, and that's what keeps bothering researchers. You'd expect the cycle to shift under thermal stress, to accelerate, or at least fluctuate. It hasn't. Even as it warms, the beat continues. Tick, tick. Whatever is driving those pulses isn't a pressure valve or thermal fracture, it's more stable than that. More reliable, like it's responding to an internal clock. Something buried deep inside, unreachable, untouchable, unexplainable. The speculation is growing. Some researchers have stopped calling it a comet altogether, at least off the record. The word now used behind the scenes. Artifact. Because there's a difference between an object and an artifact. Objects happen. Artifacts are made. If 3I/ATLS is an artifact, then it was built. And if it was built, then someone or something built it. And that brings us to the real question. Why send a slow-moving silent body across the stars, leaking vapor, pulsing rhythmically, releasing no voice, but broadcasting data through its behavior? The answer many are beginning to accept, though few will say, is simple. It was never meant to talk to us. It was meant to be seen. The message is not in sound or light. The message is in the act itself. Its behavior is the communication. The science points to one inescapable truth: whatever 3I/ATLS is, it is not a fluke of nature. It is not chaos. It is order. It is rhythm. It is intention. And it just passed Mars. That's not metaphorical. It physically passed the orbit of Mars, and it did so without incident. No diversion. No interaction. It's on course. But on course for what? It's heading for perihelion, closest approach to the Sun. That's where it will reveal its final secrets, if it has any left to reveal. Some believe that's when we'll see true behavior, that the Sun's radiation will unlock its final stage, if it has one, that the heat will either destroy it, or wake it. Others think we've already seen everything we're going to, that it's not here to perform, but to observe, and its role is nearly complete. But then comes the theory that won't go away. That 3I/ATLS is not alone, that it's part of a network, that we only noticed this one because it leaked, because it vented, because it wanted to be seen, and the others, still dormant, still quiet, still watching, somewhere in the deep shadows between orbits, between stars, between our understanding and the edge of our science. And that's the reality we now face, not the discovery of one strange comet, but the possibility that we've just stumbled upon the edge of a system, not a communications network, not a civilization, but a process designed to monitor, not interact, to watch, not interfere. And now we know we're being watched. That's the real shock. Not the vapor, not the light, not the signals. The implication that we are not alone, and never have been. That interstellar space is not empty, that deep time is not silent. That something intelligent is out there, and it's already begun writing notes in the margins of our solar system. We found one. Or it let itself be found. And now we're watching it as closely as it's watching us, because every pulse, every vent, every shimmer of polarized light might be a data point, either for us to decipher, or for someone else to receive. And we're left with a question no telescope can answer. Not what is it, but who is it for? The world hasn't absorbed the full weight of this yet. Most people don't know what 3I/ATLS is doing. They haven't seen the telemetry. They haven't studied the pulses. They haven't connected the dots between water vapor leaking into space, rhythmic emissions, light distortion, and electromagnetic anomalies from an object that shouldn't even be active. But the ones who have, they're not sleeping well. Because this isn't just unexplained, it's unprecedented. And precedent is everything in science. Without precedent, there's no model, no prediction, no control. And 3I/ATLS is now completely outside the control of what we thought we knew about interstellar objects. The more we observe, the clearer it becomes. This isn't about the comet's physical structure anymore. It's about what it represents. And what it represents is a direct contradiction to every comfortable assumption we've had about our place in the universe. Because natural objects don't behave like this. Natural objects don't leak water in pulses every 27 minutes. They don't carry surface structures that manipulate polarized light. They don't maintain electromagnetic consistency over long durations while in motion through gravitational fields. And yet here it is, doing all of that without variation. Some in the astrophysics community are quietly referring to it as a signal object. A term rarely used outside of theoretical SETI circles. It describes an artifact that doesn't transmit in language or data, but in behavior. An object that doesn't say we are here, but demonstrates it through controlled activity designed to catch the attention of a civilization just advanced enough to recognize the anomaly. That's us. And here's the unnerving truth: there's no error in the math. The readings are clean, the instruments are calibrated. The chemical ratios have been verified by multiple independent sources. The patterns in emission are not statistical noise, they are consistent. stable, persistent. So the conclusion is simple. We are watching something work. It's not failing, it's not decaying, it's not falling apart as it approaches the sun, it's doing what it was meant to do. That raises the obvious question, who meant it? That's the wall we've now hit. Because we're staring at evidence of intent. Not geology. Not physics. Intent. It's the hardest concept for the scientific establishment to accept. Because it reclassifies the object from a celestial curiosity to technology. And once you do that, you're no longer just dealing with astronomy. You're dealing with intelligence. You're dealing with design. You're dealing with civilization, and that means you're dealing with contact. Not the kind we were prepared for. Not a message in a bottle. Not a golden record floating through the void, but something more fundamental. A presence, a device, built, deployed, operational. And here, some researchers have proposed that this may be the start of a new kind of SETI. Not listening for radio waves. Not looking for exoplanets, but watching for behavior in non-terrestrial objects. Watching for structured movement, timed emissions, signals hiding in what appears on the surface to be inert matter. That's what 3I/ATLS is teaching us. If we're willing to learn, because the implications aren't just astronomical, they're existential. If this is a probe, or even just a messenger, then it changes the nature of space itself. It's no longer empty. No longer random. No longer unclaimed. It's occupied. And it means the great silence we've been listening to for decades wasn't silence at all, it was activity we didn't recognize. Until now, as 3I/ATLS approaches perihelion, its closest point to the sun, its emissions could intensify. More signals. More anomalies, or possibly nothing at all. The object may pass through, vent what it was programmed to vent, and vanish. That's part of the fear too. That we'll miss the opportunity to understand it before it's gone. Because if this object was designed to trigger a response, and we fail to respond, what happens then? Nothing. Or something. What if we're not the first civilization it has encountered? What if this probe, if that's what it is, has done this before? Silently approached. Emitted its signals. Waited. Left. Like a cosmic census taker. Recording only what's measurable. Not caring if anyone answers. What if it's here to test one thing only? Are they watching yet? This time we are. And we're not looking away. The silence surrounding this story won't last. As more data comes in, as perihelion approaches, the activity will increase. And when it does, the world will have a decision to make. To keep pretending this is just an unusually active comet, or to confront the possibility that we've just witnessed the first passive contact from an intelligence beyond Earth. Not with a voice, but with motion. Not with a signal, but with presence. Don't let this vanish into the background. Stay engaged. Stay informed. Subscribe for more unfiltered analysis as this story continues to unfold. Because 3I/ATLS hasn't finished telling us what it is, and we may not be ready for the answer.